بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا مولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم عدد ما في علم الله صلاة دائمة بدوام ملك الله. Welcome back, viewers, to our daily podcast, Pursuit for Happiness. We touched on it last night as well and the night before, from the several meanings of the pursuit of happiness. But today, in our pursuit for that happiness, we have a panel today.
MashaAllah.
So we've tried slightly changes the logistics of things. On my right, we have Shoaib, who is a special individual who's a volunteer. He's volunteering not just in one masjid, but maybe I think up to 300 masjids up and down the country.
MashaAllah.
So during COVID, a lot of the masajid that were running, logistically and legally, a lot of that legal aid and support and the eligibility to run during COVID was through the hard work, the drafting of policies and all the PPPs, everything that was being supplied in and around England, let's say, was through the support of Brother Shoaib.
MashaAllah.
So Allah Ta'ala bless him in his life and his efforts and his volunteering.
Ameen.
To his further right, we have I will call him Hafiz Musab. So he is undertaking the Hafiz class, and Alhamdulillah, a student from Central Mosque, Manchester. And Alhamdulillah, I'm happy he's turned up today, because the subject that I wanted to discuss, it gives a different feel to it. So when I discuss it as a father of one. When Shoaib discusses it, he discusses a father of two. Musa will discuss it as a
child,
as a son. Okay. And I mean, the reason why the difference is because he's experiencing it now,
Yes.
as it happens at his age. We've gone past that age where we are completely dependent on our children, on our parents. This isn't
We've
going
got
on
sort of a hierarchy. We've got the younger, then there's myself, then there's. It's going all the way, isn't it?
Which category do you come in? That's a tough one.
How is it
Where'd you
tough,
place
man?
me?
Huh?
Depends where you place me.
He's still single to mingle, ready to mingle.
Yes.
Okay.
Wala kalam.
So, wala kalam, yes. So, Alhamdulillah. Okay, today's subject, as it's also the 3rd of Ramadan, it is the day in which throughout the entire globe, everybody is remembering the blessed daughter of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Sayyidatu Nisa'i Ahlil Jannah, the queen of all the women in paradise. So I wanted to start on that first, and inshallah we'll then engage in other discussions, relevant discussions that come in. So we'll start with you, Hafiz Sahab. Sayyidatu Nisa'i Ahlil Jannah.
I think I was really astonished when I was reminded on the 3rd of Ramadan that it's the anniversary. At the same time we're reciting Surah An-Nisa. At the same time we've just remembered Sayyidatuna Maryam.
Yep.
You know, it's like there's a theme going in our life right now. Allah is giving us some direction to focus on this at the moment. We've just talked about one of the best women of creation. We're talking about Surah An-Nisa, and it's also the anniversary of the best of all women.
In fact, in our dars after Taraweeh, I was mentioning, on the spot I made that relation. We read Surah Nisa, and then we're going to mention Sayyidatu Nisa. And regarding Hazrat Maryam, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that she was the best of her time. When he said ذَكَّرُ كَالْأُنْثَى, Quran describes. There's no man that actually comes close to the rank of Sayyidah Maryam alayhi salam. And then in our ummah, until the day of judgment, there is no woman that comes close to the rank of Sayidah Fatimah. And she's better than majority of the ummah in herself.
I think the ulama make a category that there's 4 great women. One is the Maryam, then is the Khadija, then is the Fatima, and the last one is to say the Asiya, the wife of Fir'aun, who will be the wife of the Prophet ﷺ in Jannah. These are the 4 greatest women ever on the face of this earth.
I read something today online, and I thought I'd share it.
Okay.
Is it social media again?
Social media again, going on from yesterday. It said that we know the Prophet ﷺ describes Sayyidina Imam Ali as the door to the city of knowledge. And the speaker was saying that if he's the door to the city of knowledge, then the city centre is Sayyidatuna Fatimah.
Subhanallah.
As she's Bad'atun min Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. She's
being that Badatul Rasul, another sheikh I was listening to, again, social media.
MashaAllah.
I mean, we can't get away with it.
Fawaid, benefits.
We said that yesterday. Social media isn't wrong, but it's the use of it that
It's the use
people
of
do have the wrong use of it.
I think you said yesterday that you don't remember anything if you watch social media.
No, that's if you read. I think.
So you can't become learned from it.
Yes.
You can't become alim ad-din from social media. That's what.
Yeah.
Lots of information, but it's not taking you in any way.
Yeah.
So he was saying that the fadila of Hasanain Karimain, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, is that because of Hazrat Ali radiallahu anh, or is it because of Sayidah Fatimah? As Ali is what? Sher Khuda, he's Mawla Ali. He's the son-in-law of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's taken the direct tarbiyah right from the moment go. Directly from the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. He's the fourth Khalifa. Is the rank of Hasanain Karimain because and due to Hazrat Ali, or is it due to Sayyidah Fatimah radiallahu anha?
Well, the rank of all Sahaba Ikram comes from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's the giver of and the dispenser of any of those virtues anyway.
Yeah.
So it's from him.
So the Shaykh concluded, and I really liked his conclusion. He said, because she's Badatu Rasul, and they take directly from that. Therefore, the faith and the rank that Hasanain Karimain receive is direct virtue of Sayyidah Fatimah, more than Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu. Yeah. Subhanallah. Okay. Islam, and I mentioned before on the after Tarawih as well, Islam is probably the only religion which boasts the rights of women. Is that true or not?
Definitely. Entire chapter is dedicated to their rights.
It's the only religion that can say we have an entire chapter dedicated to the rights of women.
But you know, the issue here, if you don't mind me saying, I think we did it in uni with Dr. Manju under his guidance.
This is the inheritance one.
No, it was about feminism.
Achha.
And there's this certain woman from America.
Oh yes.
Right, she's written a book on Quran and feminism,
Okay.
in which she tries to attack.
Should we name and shame or no?
No, forget the name. We don't need to
Let's
mention
keep
it.
it easy, man. Come on.
Well, I don't need to mention it. Well, I absolutely destroyed her in my assignment.
MashaAllah.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay,
She's
just to
survived.
sell. Okay, because my teacher, Mr. Manju, he actually then afterwards said that that's a very good
MashaAllah.
critique.
Fantastic.
That's what I did, because I used a bit of Hidayat al-Nahw in it. Okay, because if a person can't even know the linguistics of the ayat, then how can you question the Quran?
So,
Right, do you understand? Right. So these type of women, they do come around, and even now on the 18th of March, where they do the parade all around the world, the Women's Day. Like what Women's Day? What do you mean by Women's Day? Why? Understand?
So Quran describes the rights of women. I mean, pre-Islam, if you look at the context that the Prophet ﷺ has come in that environment where women had no rights, even till last 100 years ago, women were not given the right to vote in this country, which now is boasting or wants to become the ambassador for human rights and women's rights. There were no rights 100 years ago. In fact, Islam introduced rights of the women 1400 years ago. If anything, Islam is the most forward-thinking religion. Being aware of these are, Quran dictates and disciplines everyone and gives everybody their due rights. Because Allah is who? He's a creator, isn't it? Yeah? خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن ذَكَّرٍ وَأُنثَى. Created for one man and one woman, and He knows the rights of everybody for whichever position they take in the family unit. Allah Ta'ala has given all those rights. And Sayidah Fatimah radiallahu anha, she's unique because Nabi alayhi salatu was salam, she's inherited everything from the Prophet alayhi salatu was salam. We know that Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha describes that there's nobody that resembled sallallahu alayhi wasallam more than Sayyidah Fatimah, in the way she spoke, in the way she walked, in the way she dressed, and in her even outer resemblance. There's no one that ashbah, no one that's more resembling to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam.
Do you know the Arabic words of it? Sayyidah Fatima. I think
Which
it's
one?
Ma ra'aytu ahadan ashbah. Something
along those lines.
Yeah.
So the most resembling in every way, and the Sahaba, Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha, and a unique thing here is the ulama describe. We have Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha describing her. People that associate that the ashab or the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had envy towards Sayidah Fatimah. If that was the case, why would Mu'mineen ever describe her in this way?
It's Sayidah Aisha is the same one who, in the very famous event where Prophet ﷺ whispers something to his daughter, and she is saddened and then whispers and she's happy. It's Sayidah Aisha who's questioning and narrating as well. It shows you there's definitely a connection between them. Allah puts a connection between them. Ya ayyuhan nabiyyu qul li azwajika wa banatika. Allah did ataf of them.
Yeah,
if
the two
Allah
mentioned together.
put ataf, which is compassion between them as well, who are we to say otherwise?
There's a hadith in it that a person came to the Prophet, to Aisha, and asked, who does the Prophet ﷺ love the most? And she said, as the Fatimah. That same person went to the Fatimah and asked, who does the Prophet ﷺ love the most? And she said, it's the Aisha.
Aisha, subhanallah.
Subhanallah.
So there is love between the Sahaba Ikram and the Ahlul Bayt.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Subhanallah. Yushubai, what's your take on this? On feminism, women's rights?
So with feminism and rights of women, it's changing now. As you can see, there's more women taking higher positions. There's more women taking senior roles in community, in places of work. It's not
Even
here.
Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Go to the
the
airport,
rules,
even
the
in the
regulations change. Yeah,
Things are changing there as well.
I mean, I think the internet and social media is helping a lot in bringing awareness and letting people see that this is what's happening in one part of the world. This is what. So it's become a method, a channel for changing the norm. I think the norm's changing quite a lot, and the world's becoming more aware of equality, and that's why we have days like Women's Day to remember that equality. But in Islam, obviously, we've grown up, men and women, children, boys, girls, all have obviously rights and understanding and fairness towards each other. But that doesn't always resonate in every family. It's interpreted differently, I think.
I mean, everybody has their due rights in the family unit, like I said before. And when those rights are breached, that's when there are problems in the family.
There is this question that people raise in regards to Islam and the rights of women. Does Islam force a woman to marry an individual? Is there force? Because what we see in our subcontinent is that, according to what they say, the women are forced into a marriage in which they don't want to go into.
I mean, is this haram from a Quranic point of view? وَلَا تُكْرِهُ فَتَيَاتِكُمْ. Don't force your young, girls and what have you.
Like
Just something came to my mind about feminism is they say that we look down and we have mistreatment towards females. Yet here we are celebrating a female.
Yeah.
Here we are speaking so highly of what an amazing individual that was, Sayyidatuna Fatimah.
Yeah.
Is there any other religion that praises women like that, first and foremost? We mentioned 4 women, we mentioned a whole chapter of women.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's no other religion that boasts of it, like as you did.
If you read the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, he ﷺ would actually take advice from his wives to implement the Sharia.
Wow.
Very in particular is at Sulh Hudaybiyah. After Sulh Hudaybiyah happened, the Sahaba Ikram, he ﷺ ordered them to slaughter the animals, and no one did it. He ﷺ then goes to Hafsa, who is the daughter of Umar bin Khattab, that no one's slaughtering. And as the Hafsa said, Ya Rasulullah, why don't you go and do it yourself? Everyone else will follow you. And exactly that happened. He ﷺ, as soon as he slaughtered his animal, everyone else started to follow.
Wow.
Yeah, that is from the practice of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to engage in discussions with his wife when it comes to decision making. And in our subcontinent, correct me if you have a lot more experience than myself in marriage life. And plus with age, of course, you meet more people, you see and you hear of more incidents. Men from the subcontinent at least, they find it as a weakness to consult the women in their family. Is that not the case?
I think what you find is there's a bit of immaturity as well that goes with that. So as we're grown up to be men, be boys, we then suddenly hit adulthood. But then the real adulthood comes when you get married and you realise that, look, I'm a family man. I'm a husband to obviously somebody who's almost under my wing or beside me, and the responsibility level change.
Some people still not become adulthood. after marriage as well. Yeah.
But I mean,
There's many examples.
that's basically where it falls down a little bit, I think. So
But from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would consult his wives. So take them in your mashwara, take them in your confidence. We know Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam from one understanding from the seerah of the Madani seerah, that is, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would gather all his wives and have a sitting with them, like a meeting.
Yeah.
And that famous one, which is towards the end of his life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he, Allahu Akbar, him as being the Rasul of Allah, is asking permission from his wives. If you give me permission, I want to spend my final days in the house of Aisha. He's asking them permission. And here we are 1400 years later, taking on our manhood first before anything else, and say, look, why do I need to consult my wife? But the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is doing exactly the opposite.
A question from the audience.
Yeah, question from the audience as well.
I think this is a hadith, I'm not sure, but the Prophet would consult his wife Aisha radiallahu anha when he would go to pray in the middle of the night to do his tahajjud.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the hadith of Nis Sha'ban, isn't it?
Look, give me ijazat.
Yeah,
You
give me ijazat.
ijazat, then I will
Mashallah.
go
Yes,
inshallah.
elaborate on it.
And this is, for example, like you're saying yourself, that you have to have that.
It has to
You
be have an
relationship
understanding.
with your
Yeah.
partner.
Yeah, it's mentioned in the hadith of the 15th of Sha'ban, isn't it, as well? The Prophet sought that permission to go spend it in ibadah. To worship Allah in something so, sacred, yet still he's seeking permission because she has a right on that night.
You know
She
what's
has a right.
what's startling here? Allah says, Qumil layl. Stand for the nights. So Allah's given him instruction.
Yeah.
And
he's
he's
seeking
sallallahu alaihi
ijazat.
wasallam is seeking ijazah from Sayidah Aisha.
You know what's amazing is in Surah An-Nisa, it's all about the rights of women.
Yep.
As a summary, in either insaf or islah of women.
Yeah.
Insaf towards women, justice, or islah, how to rectify between them and rectify them. And it begins with that command to taqwa.
Yeah.
Almost as if to say taqwa is to have right, relationship and dealings with your women, giving them their rights. And that's what we see in Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
But I'm going to add here, some of these guys who go into a tablighi dora for 40 days, 50 days, 60 days, forgetting the wife, or those people who, for example, migrated from the subcontinent over here with no visa, wives back home, stuck there for 10 years, 12 years. I know a guy who's been there for 12 years. There's another guy who's been for 20 years. And
There
then
are
back.
many examples.
Yeah, I know of an example of a specific case where the woman she has an illness, she's pregnant, she's about to give birth, and the guy goes 40 days on his Jamaat. Without a phone, without any contact, anything. He goes, I'm in the path of Allah, leave me alone. Is that the path of Allah?
Is that taqwa? Would you call that taqwa, or what
Not
would you
at all.
call that?
Not at all.
I think those people are being exploited by those movements.
Yeah, the movement. Yeah, they're but laymen.
And they're being told if you're going for Allah, you're going to get close to Allah, you come back, and then all that knowledge and whatever you embrace from us, you can filter it back to your family and but it never happens.
What comes to mind is in one of our darses with yourself, you mentioned a hadith about wronging your wife and your family and etc. And how on the day of judgment Allah might forgive, and we hope He'll forgive his rights that He had over us, huququllah. But huququl ibad, you mentioned a story of a man who wakes up on Yawm al-Qiyamah and his wife wasn't given her rights, so she takes from his deeds. Initially this man is to go to Jannah, and then his daughter comes, he didn't give her rights, she takes from his deeds, his son. Eventually he gets to the door of Jannah, but he had so many wrongings with people, they took from all his deeds, he had nothing left, and he goes to Jahannam. So
that is the case.
it is from the deceptions of shaitan, in it, that you go in the path of Allah, but you're not going to fulfill the rights of the creation of Allah. Is that getting closer to Allah? I think
A lot of these cult leaders are in their late ages. They've worked hard, they've done the upbringing of their kids who can now financially run the families. Now they have free time, they can go out for the 40 days, 1 month, 2 months, however long they want to go. But to endorse that onto a teenager, a young Muslim who's still in education, for example, and a lot of cases I've seen, they come back completely brainwashed. And when they come out, they're like, okay, forget this dunya, I'm only going to work for the akhirah.
Yeah, they don't
I don't need to
finish their
work.
studies,
I don't need to get married, I'm not doing anything, I'm just going to preach, and I need to convert everybody in the UK. So that's the mission they go on. It's complete. That's exploitation, isn't it?
Yeah, so as a parent, you've got to worry about the children that you're bringing up into this world, and I'd say that it's tipped a little bit towards more dunya over deen, and the influence is obviously again to that internet, to obviously education, the systems that are in place. But I do understand, correct me if I'm wrong, but it is law of the land first, the land that you're in, and then obviously you follow Sharia, and obviously practice your religion best possible way you can. But I think that re-education is happening inside the masjid. I think more needs to come out into the masjid, but what is happening inside the masjid needs to be filtered down to from obviously the fathers, the mothers that are attending, down into the children. I'm seeing a massive number of attendees to madrasas now. The numbers are quite big now.
Because a lot of the education standard in madaris is getting a lot better. In masjids, the maktab that's running, they now have English speaking teachers, they have now we have syllabus, all these things are being done. But like for example Musab here, he's a student that's grown through the Manchester Central Mosque syllabus. How do you find that? How has that supported you to how you are now, how we are seeing you now?
How crucial is like madrasa in your day-to-day life? Is it giving you tarbiyah? Is it,
since a young age, I've been involved in Manchester Central Mosque. I think the syllabus was quite good because they built on my beliefs, so they built on the knowledge that I had. And now I'm in uni, them beliefs, like if I get questions on my belief, I can go back and relate to my teachers. I think that the big aspect is having a good teacher. The teacher you can rely on. If you have any questions, you can go back to. But currently, most of the students or most of the Islamic youth, what they're doing wrong is they're getting their Islam from the social media, which is wrong. But they should be going back to their teachers. They need to have a good relationship with their teachers, madrasa teachers. I think that's what we are lacking. After GCSEs, most of the students, they leave madrasa. Currently, madrasa is only targeted for younger students. I think teenagers, they're getting missed out, and they moving on, and they was going on to education. And
I've got a question for you. How central is your teacher's relationship with you? Has it played and is it playing a huge part in your tarbiyah?
I think it is, because if I do have any questions, rather than going somewhere else, I'm going back to my teacher because I have a good relationship. I can rely on my teacher.
I mean, that can be seen right now, isn't it, on screen? You've got a teacher and student together, and that's the teacher he's referring to, isn't it? Yes.
I think what's happening now in madaris in up and down the country, there's a lack of tarbiyah. It's more focused towards Quran Pak, Qaida, Namaz book, Qamar book, end of story. But in regards to tarbiyah, if the madaris can focus on the akhlaq of the students from the small age, from the age of 5 to the age of 16, that they're going to go through the syllabus, I think when they leave, like you're saying, as soon as they leave, they should be enough to be an imam in a masjid. That's what the target of the madaris should be today.
Have some plans for that?
Inshallah.
I think the only thing with that is you've got the madaris, the madrasa, and the education's coming that way, but it shouldn't really stop there. It should be in the home as well.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna
this is where I was coming to. I mean
parents will drop their kids off. It's like pick and drop service that they're doing. They pick them up from madrasa and they think that's it. The madrasa is going to teach them everything that they need to know about Islam, about their rights, about tarbiyah. Everything's going to happen in those 2 hours or that 1 hour they're in, and parents believe their responsibility has been fulfilled by doing that. That is completely the wrong understanding. Just because we get used to schooling, and in school we've left the child to the school in terms of the education. Parents think we've done our bit. They're going to get the GCSEs, they'll get the college, uni. There's no input from the parent point of view, other than attending 2 parents' evenings in the year, and that's it.
It's quite sad. There's something I just remembered. There was a lad who I know, his parents were of the elder generation, so they couldn't connect to him too well. And he was saying that, throughout his entire life, he didn't receive any mannerism, etiquette from his parents. It was from school, because I didn't know how to eat in front of a table. But it was school that taught me that. I mean, you're right, parents think that if I just leave them there, that they're going to get everything they need over there.
Yeah, I
It's
think
unfortunate.
it comes down to Islam is seen as an education only and not a way
way
to
of
live,
life, yeah.
a way of life.
Or even
And-
that, it's a faith
Yeah.
system only.
And because of that, that tipping point now where it's becoming more dunya over deen, like you said, Imam Saab, the parents are sending the children into the madrasah. That's their 2 hours of Islam. So yeah, it's becoming more of a Islam is an education over Islam is a
Yeah.
way of life.
I want to add there, I think we mentioned it in the podcast before Ramazan, that I think after every 15 or 20 years, children seem to face something different in schools. Like, for example, in my era that we were in schools, there was no fear of Islamophobia. There was no fear of me being attacked on my aqidah. The only thing that on our mind would be fiqh, for example, knowing my fiqh, how to read namaz properly, knowing hajj, zakat. That's what. Now, what's happening is children going to school but don't know their aqidah. And when they go to school, they're questioned. This is at the age of 8, 9 years old. So I think Madaris, this is a request, I think that Madaris, a lot of their focus should be on aqidah.
I mean, that's for the audience, for them to address that, take that up with your local
Yeah.
imams, your masjids, wherever
Yeah.
we are being heard. The question for Musab. Your relationship with the masjid and time is different to your siblings. You've got younger siblings, I think you're 10 years younger than you. Yeah? How are they experiencing this? What do you see in them that's different?
I think they are.
Or what their challenges?
For the youngest, for my younger brother's siblings, I think for them they question a lot, whereas for us we were just okay, we've been taught and we just take it what it is. But now the younger generations, as Ustaji mentioned, that in the schools they are being questioned a lot. So I think they are questioning a lot, and the parents, they're unable to answer because they weren't educated. So
Haji Shabir Sabi once said, because as smartphones get cleverer each year, the youth get cleverer as well. So now they are critical thinking. The youngsters, as he's saying, they're questioning everything. Yeah,
It's
carry on.
access to a lot of information.
Especially
isn't
with this LGBT in schools being taught, that is a direct attack on Islam, right? Using my words properly, I'm trying to. But children go in school, they're questioned, and then they come home and question their mum and dad. Okay, is it all right for me to be one of those sexes?
It's a difficult place now, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
an agenda is being pushed. I'm in school.
Yeah.
Parents don't always have the answers. Sometimes certain maktab teachers may not have the answers. And education is really needed on all levels about this.
Mm-hmm.
How to address this question.
Comes in. We
Yeah.
need someone like him to upgrade the syllabuses of masajid. I asked him to help me out in Kubama, so he's not giving me time.
I think the syllabus is changing now because there are talks of so with the schools are run by Ofsted.
Yeah.
There are talks of madrasa being having Ofsted involvement as well. But I think if that happens, then obviously there's going to be more influence on the criteria that is taught in the masjids.
But we do have an answer for those things. There's a way to put down our beliefs without compromise, without offence as well.
Yeah.
We can say this is what we believe as a religion without offending anybody.
Just like in the past 50 years, feminism became a big subject, a
Mhm.
hot subject. Right now, if these subjects are becoming hot, Islam always has answers for all. It may seem as a challenge now, just like feminism was a challenge 30, 40 years back. Ulama having to tackle this as a subject did find it difficult because they were difficult questions. But over time, we've adapted. So now when these new subjects come in, yes, they're being taught at a very young age. But the Aimma from the masajid and teachers now need to start building awareness on it to counter that from a very young age as well. So they know this is where we stand.
Our tradition is very rich though. Like even you go back into books of fiqh 1,000 years ago, you can see the level of forward thinking. They had chapters of people who their gender was not so clear.
Quduri.
Yeah, Khuduri Shif talks about the khuntha, etc.
Yeah.
Meaning that level of forward thinking was always there.
Islam is a very forward-thinking religion.
There is a
It has
place we
answers
can
for
go
everything.
and get the answers from. Yeah.
Shoaib mentioned one thing unique.
You got a question from the audience?
Yeah, so
Hazrat,
Shoaib mentioned one thing that it's what the parents need to do now is to the upbringing of a child currently that we're seeing at large, it's limited to just this dunya. Whatever you need to do is for this dunya. When do the parents actually find time or devote time to educate a child towards his akhirah? We see in the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Again, Sayidah to Nisa Ahl Jannah, Sayidah Fatimah radiallahu anha. We have a hadith that I read a long time ago. I may misquote it, but Okma Qala alayhi salatu wasalam. Sayidah Fatimah radiallahu anha, their bedding that they had was basically a leather that they would sleep on. Sayidah Fatimah and Hazrat Ali radiallahu anha. That leather mat or whatever they had on the floor over time was ripped and had issues. This is in Mishkat al-Masabi. She came to the Prophet ﷺ with a genuine request or complaint, you could call it. Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our bedding, that leather that we had, it's been ripped, it's torn. Can I please request that it be replaced? As there was a lot of wealth coming into the Muslim treasury, as of course the conquests were taking place, a lot more wealth was coming in. So Ya Rasulullah, oh Father, can we have one? And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam refused. Hadith describes he refused. And then he reminded her, you're complaining about this leather mat that you sleep on. Compare yourself to Musa alayhi salam and his wife. They slept on a cloth for 10 years. You've got a leather and you're complaining. And the Sharihin underneath, they describe that this was Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam giving tarbiyah. Don't attach yourself with this dunya.
Yeah.
In fact, attach yourself with the bounties and the luxuries of the akhirah.
There's another element of tarbiyah there. It's okay not to have everything. In this day and age, is liberalism. Child wants something, you have to give
It's
it.
on demand. A child is being given everything straight away.
Subhanallah, prophetic.
And here,
it's
it's a bedding, isn't it? Yeah. A basic request. But no, look at the favors of your Lord in the akhirah and compromise. Similarly, the other story where we have the tasbih of Sayidah Fatimah radiallahu anha. That's another story where she's working so hard throughout the day that her hands have become tired and she's getting blisters, yeah? And she comes to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, through conquest, many slaves have come. Can I please request one that would work and support me in the house? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, no, you're not going to have it. Even though they were available, he could easily have given one. And it was probably the right of her study to even have one. Because he, of course, participated in every conquest. And he could easily have had one. But it was refused. And again, said, look, why don't I tell you something better? Recite Subhanallah 33 times. Alhamdulillah 33 times. Allahu Akbar 33 times. Is better than that slave that you would have had that would have supported you in this dunya.
Wow.
So profound.
Wow.
He's teaching them to disconnect from this dunya and attach yourself with the akhirah. That's an element of their life, Sayidah Fatimah radiallahu anha, that we can embrace as parents. That look, yes, we give them this dunya, but we have to have that perfect balance. Yes, you work. I mean, why did you send them to school? It's so that they could go to college. Why do you want to go to college? So you can go to uni. Why do you go uni? A degree. Why degree? So you make lots of money. If our maqsad and the motivation and generally speaking in our subcontinent, your son has to be either a doctor, an engineer, a pharmacist, otherwise he's a failure in life. Or sorry, I missed out the barrister, wakil. There are only these four options. Other than that, anything else that you've done, you're a failure to us. I believe that is a wrong approach as a whole. That approach to education is wrong. When was knowledge ever taken on just to make money?
I think the issue is
knowledge was to make you a better individual.
The issue is
not to make you rich.
We as parents or as people, I'm not going to say parents or children, as a nation in itself, how much yaqeen do we have in the akhirah? That's what the issue is. We read the Quran.
Look what Allah says in the Quran.
But there's no yaqeen in it.
Surah An-Nisa. Man kana yuridu thawab ad-dunya fa'inda Allahi thawab ad-dunya wal akhirah.
Yeah.
You want those things from this dunya. Allah's got both.
Yeah. But so then the question is, I think someone as a viewer will have, how do you build that yaqeen? Because there is an akhirah, there is a questioning, there is Jannah, there is Jahannam.
وَاعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينَ.
Yeah.
Worship Allah till the yaqeen comes.
Subhanallah.
And the thing is, there was a golden era of Muslims where there was people like Imam Khwarizmi, or whatever his name is, Muhammad al-Khwarizmi, not Imam, sorry, but he must have been an Islamic scholar, but he was very vast in his algebra Then you had famous women from
We have
I don't know where, and they created GPSs through compasses. This is all Islamic knowledge given to people before the 21st century, my brother. And the thing is, we're too lost in this dunya now. Even these Imam Sahibs, what are they in the masjid for? To do this on Abayas Qadri?
we won't mention any
without
names.
naming anyone. But the
Okay,
brother's
brother,
made a very good.
I see where you're coming from.
He's made a very good
For
point
the
there,
audience,
mashallah.
those that are viewing this, we do have some live audiences as well, and they're giving us their feedback as well. But the point to be mentioned here, which Hafisa was alluding to as well, we want to educate our children. The tarbiyah should be focused towards the akhirah and not to this dunya.
Like I
It
mentioned,
needs to be akhirah focused.
I mentioned
There's
it on-
nothing wrong
You know,
earning. There's
if-
nothing wrong in
yeah.
making money, but the motivation and the intention. Let's say a student has been from the age of 5 and they go to school till 25, they graduate. Those 20 years he's lost. 8 hours a day he spent in education. If the motivation was, I will study, so that, or the niyyah, for example, is that I'll study with that education, I'll make that wealth, and I can share my wealth with the poor. With that halal risk I attain, I'll be able to support my family, my parents. And if those intentions are right, those
Exactly.
20 years through the education system becomes a form of ibadah and worship for them.
Definitely. So if you teach them about the akhirah, they will work harder in the dunya.
Yeah.
I think with the younger generations, it's not about the knowledge, it's about all the hustle, the money. Because if you think about it, most of the students, they don't want to go to uni because they think it's a waste of time. They can do something better where they could earn money. I think the perspective for the youngsters is wrong. They're not going for the knowledge, they're going for the monetary.
That's what I said. Look, the motivation for why they're going through the education system is wrong as a whole.
Yes.
And that blame comes back to the parents. Why? And like you said, وَعْبُدَ رَبَّكَ, worship your Lord حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينُ, until you get to that
I
point
think
where
you're
you have
correct.
complete faith in Allah.
A
It
lot
has
of
to
the
be
fault.
instilled from a young age.
A lot of the fault does go back to parents, especially from the subcontinent where you're raised money conscious all the time. Parents that have come because they've had to graft for their pound and the penny and the shilling in their days. They're so money conscious, and that has a big effect on the kid. The only time they see their parents, they're talking about money, they're talking about bills, they're trying to save a penny here, they're trying to spend a penny there,
Buying land back home.
buying like sending money back home. So
Lard.
Yeah.
I believe a lot of the fault does lie with parents, and what you do in front of the children affects them. And you can learn
I
that
mentioned this in on the Shab-e Bara'at Mehfil, I will remember, is that this is a technique to build yaqeen in the children for the parents, is that we've lost the essence of dua and the power of dua, and especially istighfar. And children, but their dua is accepted more than ours because they are pretty much sinless. What I mentioned on the Shab-e Barat was that when you make dua as a family, when you get together in your family meal, make dua, get your child to make dua, get him to make dua. Why? One benefit is he knows how to make dua. Secondly, he builds confidence of how to speak up in a public speaker. This is where it starts from. And thirdly, it's tarbiyah for them, because when you're eating, this is how you eat. This is where the yaqeen comes, that there is an akhirah, there is a Lord, there is Allah there.
Yeah, wow.
You
So
should-
there's a lot for parents to do.
As a parent, where do you see this?
Yeah, I just didn't want to skip that point really, that the children, the youth, obviously now coming into this dunya, understanding what Islam is, what religion is, and being associated with so many different cultures, traditions, people, the mix between tradition and Islam. I think there used to be a definitive understanding of what Islam is, what tradition is, what culture is. I think that line's becoming finer and finer to a point where there are overlaps and confusion starts again with obviously understanding from the parents' perspective, moving down, and what is the actual traditional aspect of living, what is the cultural aspect of living, and then what is the Islamic understanding, and then how do you interpret that into the modern world that we live in now. So we're in 2022. We have obviously there's a mental war, there's a stress war with financial stuff that was brought up before, working, and I think the word that was missed there was rat race. I think that's what we were referring to.
Yep, that is
So
the case.
rat race. So looking at rat race, how do parents deal with it? Are we
They just put them into it.
educating? Yeah, but we're educating stress, how to cope with stress. We're educating how to deal with financial issues and how to deal with lack of money or bills, and it's the coping mechanisms that we're diluting into the children as well, for them to understand how to cope with these issues. And going back to Islam, obviously focusing on the deen, keeping up with your namaz, simple things that we were taught: pray 5 times, keep up with your namaz. That is a coping mechanism.
Yeah,
But the coping mechanisms
there
are
was something
changing.
I can draw on
Yeah.
from my personal one is my mum always gives charity all the time, and she always says there's been times where we don't have money to give, but she's still giving it, and that taught me a yaqeen that the more you give, it will come back to you, and alhamdulillah, it comes back to you. So parents, their job is tarbiyah. They have the biggest role in tarbiyah, and if you want to see islah in the ummah, it has to come from parents. We can't keep bashing kids and try to fix kids. It has to start at home, I think.
Me and Hafsa went to this training session in South Manchester masjid, and it was about the imams, how they should, be preaching the deen. And in that, they made a very good distinction of the youth today, that there's actually 3 types.
Okay.
One are those that are practicing because due to their parents. The middle one are those that are not practicing, but they've got some type of conscience that there is a deen and there is an Allah, and then we should kind of abide by the rules. And then the third category are those that literally nowhere to be seen, completely like no fear of Allah Ta'ala, no conscience that that there's a deen, nothing, and that's because of the parents. And this is where the imams and the parents need to play a role, knowing which category do you fall in. If your child is not reading namaz, for example, or your child doesn't know how to give charity, or doesn't know even how to do ghusl, doesn't know the ahkam of ghusl, then that's a thinking point.
Definitely.
We have problems, yeah. In terms of solutions, okay, working towards solutions. So far, all we had is problems in the ummah. Practical solutions, how's that?
I give one.
What can we do?
Practical solutions is, as Ustaji said there, is for parents to demonstrate yaqeen, for parents to become a bit more holy, so to speak. Has a huge impact on the kids. We see this in the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, we see this in the seerah of Anbiya, full stop. Look at Sayyidatuna Maryam, her mother, Imra'atu Imran, such a pious lady, makes such a pious dua, so conscious of the child she's about to have, and the child that is born is none other than Sayyidatuna Maryam, whose rank excels most people. So practical solution would be that parents themselves needs to wake up to this. It's not just a problem within the youth.
I mean, one thing I mentioned in a nikah I was conducting 2 weeks ago. Even though the nikah ceremony talks are quite generic, mine I try to make it slightly different. And what I mentioned was, look, marriage is, don't take it easy or light. It's one of the biggest responsibilities that's falling upon you. Yeah. You are laying the foundation for the next generation.
How big a responsibility? I just want to add something there. One of the last khutbahs I heard in Egypt was about nikah, and he says that when Allah took mithaq with his anbiya, with his prophets, he calls it mithaqan ghalidha, such a hefty, lofty, weighty pact. And Allah describes marriage in Surah An-Nisa as well as mithaqan ghalidha wa akhadna minkum mithaqan ghalidha. It's a hefty,
it's a
loaded package. It is, and it's not something
because
light.
when you have that offspring, and that offspring is the foundation for the next, isn't it? This is what it's called ibn. Ibn comes from bina. You're establishing your legacy based on these children. If that legacy is not Islam motivated, then that you know which direction your legacy is going in. Yeah, it's like Sheikh Sadi alayhi rahmah said that if you want to be known and your name to be sung around the globe, when you're 6 foot underground, then teach your children good akhlaq.
So,
because they live your legacy, don't they? The way they conduct themselves, their Islam, their outward portrayal of Islam, their tarbiyah that they give to their children is directly coming from you.
Yeah, it's one of the 3
Child
things that
psychology.
continues, isn't it? Is waladun salihan.
Yeah, child psychology is, look, whatever the way you as a father, as a mother, give tarbiyah to your child, that child, when he becomes a father or a mother, will do exactly the same when he has children. Because the only experiencing of parenting that he's been exposed to are you. He's not going to go around and ask, okay, what parenting are you doing? All he's seen, what he's experienced, he'll pass on. Now, if a father comes back from work and he's on his phone for the entire evening, or he's in front of the news for the entire evening watching movie after movie, Netflix, that child, when he becomes a father, do you really think he's going to be sat upon the musalla all evening? No, he's not. He's going to be sat in front of Netflix as well. And you're basically, that's your legacy, isn't it?
This comes in an ayah of the Quran. It just came to mind. كَمَا بَدَأَكُمْ تَعُودُونَ.
Yeah.
As you begin, you will return. It's a constant circle.
Yeah.
كَمَا بَدَأَكُمْ تَعُودُونَ.
I think that's another thing for parents as a solution is taking your children to the masjid. If the committee members, for example, get angry, your child making noise, your child doing this, what you could remind them is that it's actually the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to take children to the masjid. For example, the famous hadith when Imam Hassan and Hussein were coming into the masjid and they're falling down, and Yuri Salatu Wasalam is on the mimbar, he's on the pulpit, and he sees them coming, he actually comes off the mimbar, goes to them, picks them up and brings them to the mimbar and makes them sit down on his lap, both of them. Okay. Proves that
they were obviously disturbing the ashab as they were trying to climb over their backs.
Yeah.
So that was normal. Kid would do that. If you go Turkey, in masajid have a location on the side of the masjid specifically for children to make noise.
Wow.
Do what you're doing and let the parents go and perform their salah.
There's that quote, isn't it, on the internet? That's from Turkey, apparently. Yeah, it's back to social media. It says something about. It's from Turkey, I think. It was written on the wall of a mosque. There's a picture. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
That if at the back of the mosque you don't hear the kids, noise and what have you, then fearful for the next generation or something. I think they said it's written in the walls of the mosques in Turkey, something like that.
You have to have a community that tolerates this. Yeah. Our current subcontinent community does not tolerate children at all. In fact, this just again social media. I was watching something cropped up. So somebody's coming into Salah and a child is.
Oh yes, I've seen that video.
You seen that?
Yeah.
What is it?
So this child, he's
doing namaz.
The imam's in sajda, the children are in sajda.
Yeah.
And obviously this child is stood next to, doing sajda next to an adult. This adult comes from behind.
Yeah, I've seen that video.
With his foot, basically kicks him.
No way.
Oh, sorry.
Whoa.
Moves him to the side.
No.
Basically, that's what the child probably would have experienced.
That's
with
shocking.
his foot, kicked him aside and said, Allahu Akbar, and he goes to sajda.
That's shocking.
And a big example,
Sorry for the mic. Sorry.
Sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
when Hassan and Hussein were on his back while he was in sujood.
Sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yeah, so that's him at home, alayhi salatu wasalam.
Yeah.
To be honest, if we want to use any role model as Tarbiyah, my brothers, is Nabi sallallahu
Sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yeah.
But in masajid, so we were mentioning masajid, the solution Hafsa was giving, so touching on that, is to bring your children to the masajid. And I address, especially the elder community, to tolerate children. We have our youth events, and we've got like 80 kids making so much noise in the masjid. Yes, it's only once a month, and those babajis are probably going to be kicking off in their mind. Yeah, they're having a heart attack up there. Why is there noise in the masjid? But what they don't realize is, look, if this noise is not here, would you rather have them come to the masjid or go to a play center or go to a church and play there?
Imam Sab, just to add to that point, really, I've been alhamdulillah blessed with two boys. They're very young. They're just around the 5 and 6 year old mark. So they're very useful. They're in still understanding mode, and they don't fully understand society at the moment. But they have, alhamdulillah, with my travels, been to a few masjids up and down the country. And their only sole goal is to see how quickly they can get to one wall to the other. In the masjid. And as a parent, at first going in as a professional capacity, it's a bit embarrassing. And I've actually, in that professional capacity, been told off by the chairman, by the committee members, that I had to be educated, that they're children. Let them run. Let them do whatever they want to in the masjid, because they want to build that memory inside the minds of those children that the masjid is a fun place.
Even if you draw on our own personal experiences, we're all here in some capacity serving and have a relation with the mosque, because initially we all have memories of being there. We have memories of growing up and attachment to those walls and the carpet, and here we are serving.
I'll tell you a story. We've got this guy on Rybank Road, just Faisab Haji Faiz. He's died now. And he used to come with his child. He's bringing him to the masjid, and his child, he was only like, I remember, like 5-10 years old. Now he's died. He's now a PhD doctor. That child now.
Wow, mashallah.
Okay, he comes to masjid and he brings his 2 children to Fajr Salah. Look where it started, and he's gone to his grandsons. Okay, that they're coming to masjid now as well. Every namaz with their dad. Okay, and now those children that come with him, they're actually university students now.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that legacy will continue. Their children will continue to come to the masjid.
Yeah.
And if parenting goes wrong,
Mm.
even one example, 2-3 generations down the line, they lose Islam altogether.
Wow.
I know examples where this has happened,
Wow.
Yeah.
where parents have not focused on Islam and they've not given that tarbiyah. So they've come to the West, they're living in the West.
Yeah.
Now they're so taken by the luxuries and the distractions of the West. Islam is nowhere, doesn't play a part in their life. Those children, when they become parents, having never seen Islam in day out, for them is secondary, isn't it? For the generation after that, it becomes their 3rd, 4th generation. You can see where that's leading to. And examples of those I've seen that are 4th and 5th generation in this country, Al-Aman wal Hafiz.
You know, we were saying in the beginning, talking about all these problems at school, LGBT, and all of these problems that you mentioned. I think all of the solutions is in the masjid.
Subhan.
If you look at it, every solution is in the masjid. If we can be attached to the masjid, I think majority of our issues can be resolved. And having that connection with the Imam, having
Sure.
connection with the masjid, with the Quran, everything can be resolved.
Subhan.
See, a wise man said, teach your children Islam. Islam will teach them how to live.
Subhan.
Yeah,
That's all it is. But when we don't teach them the Islam
yeah,
and they don't know how to live, that's where things go pear-shaped.
Yeah, it is twofold as well, I think. One is obviously the educational aspect, but the other one is lead by example.
Yeah.
And we can educate as much as we want, but the example part is the difficult part.
So,
Where you have to lead as a parent.
That's
So-
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So what I was mentioning earlier, that family unit is established on the marriage. If that marriage, the maqsad behind that marriage, the motivation was wrong, things are going to go downhill.
yeah.
Then you don't realize the parenting responsibilities that come. We mentioned that yesterday as well. If you were never ready for that, then why did you get into
Yeah,
it?
there's a story they mention about a wise man. I don't know if you know about this. That a man came to this wise man, to one of these hukama, these hakims, and he said to him, I need you to help me with the tarbiyah of my child. So the wise man says to him, how old's your child? He goes, it's 8 months. He said, you're too late. It was too late.
Too late.
He said the tarbiyah of the child begins when you pick the mother or pick the parent, i.e. So tarbiyah, it starts prior to the child's existence and definitely throughout the entire thing.
But at the same time, I mean, the message should be, it's never too late.
It's never too late, definitely.
Yeah. Even if you've realized now whilst listening to us, and having heard from the experience of Shoaib, he's got 2 kids. It's never too late.
Never too late.
There's always a starting point. Make a start now.
Inshallah.
Take an active, when I say active, it means a proper active approach to it now.
Can I make a point? I think in regards to parenting, that those parents, I'll say myself, okay, as my child, he's autistic, okay. Now this is another part of parenting which
Okay.
I think most masajid don't talk about on the mimbar as well, or do something about it. Is those parents who have autistic children, how do they do the tarbiyah of those children? Because they're still the ummah, they're still the nation of the Prophet ﷺ. They still need guidance. How do we go around that?
Wow.
It's a very valid point, and I think that level of support again. And I was going to add before that I was saying obviously education and then lead by example, but a second part to that is inside the masjid and outside the masjid as well. So where we have attendees come into the masjid, those individuals are more likely to pass the message on. We're more likely to have parents passing and channeling that to the children. What about those who aren't regular namazis? No offense to them, maybe they're busy at work, maybe they've got a busy lifestyle, but have they as parents been taught the coping methods and how to keep that level of stress down in order to pass that down to those children? So it's inside and outside the masjid, that level of support. And again, autism, I think Imam Saab, you've touched on children who are hard of sight, difficulty with sight.
I've actually done 2 Juma bayans
Yeah,
on this
so
topic.
it's disability that
Yeah.
the word that we're looking for.
Yeah.
How are we incorporating and adapting to certain disabilities?
So what we're saying is,
and
is
difficulties
we
that
need to
children
provide
face?
education to parents on how to deal with this and provide them support as well, innit?
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
but the masajid should have some
yeah,
type
yeah.
of a education syllabus where we have it for the norm.
Mm.
But for these special children,
Definitely.
there should be a
Special needs, yeah.
separate syllabus just
Yeah,
for them.
Central Mosque.
Just for them. And the answer is in our deen. There's an answer for every single thing.
Wow,
We did it in Husami. That there's a chapter just for these type of autistic children in Husami.
Subhanallah.
It's called Babul Atah. These people, like there's ahkam for these type of children, these type of people who are slow.
Islam goes everything.
Like there's everything. The answer is there. It's just I think now in this when the 21st century we live in, just being able to bring that in the masajid more.
Inshallah.
I mean, a lot of the discussion today has been like masajid need to be able to provide solutions, and let's not just limit it to central mosques because of their financing and you know their contacts. I think every masjid in every
Inshallah.
community should play their part
Definitely.
in supporting every level of the community that we have.
Mhm.
And once that takes place and everyone is playing their role, masajid are allowing kids to come in, elders are facilitating that. Yeah, we have good imams that can actually speak the language, imams that can actually connect with the youth.
Yeah.
We need to have, sisters in the community that can help sisters as well in
Definitely.
the community.
Yeah.
All of this happens because the masjid is a community center.
That's it.
The masjid of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a community center. People what came in with their family problems. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave family counseling. He also gave legal rulings from that same pulpit.
Yeah.
He led armies into battle from that pulpit.
Subhanallah.
Everything was happening from the masjid. Children were coming into the masjid, he would play with them. Warriors are coming in, he's playing, he's taking that conduct with them. Delegations are coming from different countries, he's negotiating with them. Every aspect, every person from the society is coming to the masjid,
Yeah.
and the solutions are being provided from the masjid.
Like
So we need to have those.
The syllabus for these autistic children, you would remember, is from Luton, but the Dawood.
Yeah.
He's got a syllabus for autistic children to do hifz.
Wow.
And he's found a way that these autistic children, their special way of learning, if you can actually trigger it, they can actually do hifz faster and better than normal children.
Wow.
Right?
Yes.
He's got a way. So there are solutions there out there for everyone.
Inshallah. So if these discussions, the viewers that are listening, you need to have these discussions with your local masjids
Yeah.
and have the right people in the decision making in your masajid.
Yeah.
Have the right imams and facilitate that for the entire community. And at large, going forward in the years to come, there is a lot of hope. A
Inshallah.
lot of English speaking, well trained imams are now available up and down the entire country. But it's not just the imam that's going to make this change. He needs support from his community, from his committee of the masjid. Everybody has to play their part, basically.
Inshallah.
I think one very simple statement that from a parent to a child that can be passed down is a simple statement, and it's only 3 words, and it's love the masjid. If you can pass that simple message to your children, just love the masjid, it holds a whole host of understanding. It makes the child think, what does that actually mean? Love the masjid. Always love the masjid. If the parent's elderly, passes away, last thing, what my dad always said, what my mum always said, love the masjid. What does that mean? It resonates a little bit, and I think it's a good message to pass down, and that's something that I did pick up. I mean, it's not something that I made up or thought of. It's something that I picked up from somebody else, and I've been passing that to my boys, and hopefully that will resonate with them. Love the masjid. Inshallah.
Yeah, because the hadith describes that if you want to know somebody of iman, that is that individual who's constantly seen in and out of the masjid. I'll come back to your point. Love the masjid.
Yeah, youth who attend the mosque, they've got 2 tickets to salvation there. From the 7 types of people who are given shade are those youth who are brought up in the obedience of Allah, and then those people who have attachment to the masjid. You've got 2 tickets. So let's
paradise,
get
yeah.
the youth in, inshallah.
Inshallah. Take ahbab, inshallah, thank you very much.
Jazakallah.
Tomorrow we'll be back with a completely new subject in mind. Today's was quite spontaneous anyway.
It was very spontaneous.
Yeah. I just had a rough idea of Sayidah Fatimah radiallahu anha, and look, with the barakah of her name,
So,
Yeah.
the discussion
I think we
we
should
had.
conclude with Al-Fatiha, inshallah.
The Fatiha.
Bismillah. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina. Alhamdulillah. As-salatu
Ameen. Barakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.